Everybody asks me what are my thoughts on karate and taekwondo and these more traditional martial arts. And I could go on for a long time about these topics. So I'm going to try to keep this video short. My name is Bill Jones. I'm the head instructor of top level martial arts in beautiful downtown Cuyahoga Falls. I'm a black belt under Master Pedro Sauer, and you're watching Professor's Corner. So let me start by saying, of course, if you like what I'm saying or if you have your own comments on this, I'd love to read it. So please comment. I try to respond to every comment. And of course, we do have the gi giveaway. This is the last video of December. So make sure that you get your comment in there and you're a subscriber, because if you do both of those things, then you're automatically entered for our gi giveaway for a Deforma Kimono Company gi that we give away every single month. All right. So karate, taekwondo, traditional martial arts. Now, I'm going to do something that's a little unfair to these martial arts. Let me start by saying I know that. I'm going to lump them into a category. So, taekwondo, karate, kung fu, all these things are going to be lumped into one category that I'm going to call traditional martial arts. And I'm going to separate that from something like judo or wrestling or boxing or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai that have a more alive component, meaning that you actually have to do the art against another combatant, another training partner, in order for the art to be complete. So that's part of it. So let me start by saying I have a third-degree black belt in Shotokan Karate. I trained for 10 years in that. A third-level black sash in Pukulan Kung Fu. Again, trained for about 10 years in Pukulan. And these are under different instructors, by the way. A strong background in Aiki Jiu-Jitsu and Judo. Trained several years in each, and I never competed in Judo or anything like that, but Aiki Jiu-Jitsu I competed a lot in. And that actually had more alive components than you would expect. And Taekwondo I did as a kid, which is a thing you hear a lot. And I've dabbled in a lot of things, just, trained it here and there for a month or with friends every so often. So I have a lot of experience in a lot of martial arts. But the ones I would say I'm expert in would be Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, Pukulan Kung Fu, and Shotokan Karate, and of course Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So the idea of karate, and I know and I'm going to say the word karate as just a lump term that includes the kung fu, it includes taekwondo, and I'll separate those out if I have specific things to say. Most of these martial arts have three major components, and that is forms or kata, kihon or drilling, and kumite, some sort of sparring or fighting. And I believe that when we're talking about effectiveness, how well it's going to come out and be useful to you in a self-defense scenario, it 100% depends on the percentages of those three things that you do. And I believe that the biggest problem I see and have seen with martial arts such as karate and taekwondo and kung fu is the exorbitant amount of time spent in kata versus drills and actually sparring. So, for example, every major martial art that I've seen, boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, we all have some form of shadow boxing. In Jiu-Jitsu, it would come in the form of just kind of movement drills. In boxing, it's literally called shadow boxing, where you're punching the air. But these things are done more as a warm-up or a method of making sure that your body can do the movements you're going to require of it. So for any technique to be effective, regardless of whether it's a grappling technique or a striking technique, you need to be able to do three things. You need to be able to first do it without any resistance whatsoever. No other person, no anything. So if I can't just throw a straight punch properly, protecting my face, and doing that, then there's no point in putting me in against someone who's just going to take advantage of that. They're just going to hit me in the face every time I throw a punch. The second thing you need to be able to do is then do it in a controlled environment, so against a semi-resisting opponent, we'll say. And then, only then, should you be doing it against someone who is fully resistant. that's just how it works. So if a good another example of that might be the basic shrimp of jiu-jitsu. If I can't do a shrimp properly without a person on me, which I would say is the biggest problem if you're a white belt out there, or even a blue belt in some cases, your shrimps probably aren't that good. You may think they are, but they're probably not. And that's probably a big reason why you can't escape the positions that you are trying to escape, is your shrimps aren't good. So not being able to do it well without a person, and then only doing it moderately okay with a person on top of you, non-resistant, is not going to equal very, very good utility when there's a person who's trying to hold you down. So that's important. Those three components are important, and that's where the kata, or the non-partner training, the drills, the kumite, or I'm sorry, the kihon of karate is how they say it, but it's just drills, and then the kumite. So every martial art has these things. The problem is that most of the martial arts you'll spend 10 to 15 minutes warming up, and then you'll spend 15 to 20 minutes on kata, or forms, or kombong, or whatever word you use for that. And then you'll spend maybe another 10 minutes on drills of some sort. And this leaves only a few moments for sparring. And it's not that you need to spar all the time. I don't believe that, actually. I think that's one of the downfalls of BJJ, is too many people try to spar at 100% all the time. And that's going to break your body down. You're not going to succeed in jiu-jitsu doing that. Or very few are. So the issue is that all that absorbent amount of time spent in kata, and I'm not saying there's no value in kata. I say this to people and they immediately get triggered, and they're like, oh no, kata is the best thing, it's great for you. Look, there is a very powerful Zen effect with kata. Learning the concept of mushin, one mind, getting out of all this head space that's going around, and boom, just focusing down to the nothingness and the stillness that's around you. That's very valuable. There's of course repetition of movement and technique, which is always valuable. But the biggest issue is when you go to a martial arts class during the week, that is the 1 to 2 to 3 maybe times a week that you have to actually drill with a partner. You have a bunch of people there in the same space. And if your instructor wastes that time, and I'm going to call it a waste, by spending the majority of that time teaching everybody a thing that they can do alone, then that's a problem. The majority of the time should be spent on drilling, and drilling with a partner. That's the biggest mistake that I see traditional martial arts make. And it's not that you shouldn't teach your kata. You definitely should. It's a part of your art. You should teach your art. But there's this strict adherence to all these small details that are really kind of superfluous in the long run. Like a fist will come out and it'll be kind of here, and it'll be, oh no, it's got to be here, or no, it's got to be just like this. No one cares. It doesn't matter. Look at any fight. It doesn't matter. These fists come from a bunch of different angles. As long as you're hitting with a nice flat surface here, so that the two knuckles are aligned with the wrist, and we're not like busting our wrist up, it doesn't matter as much as you're saying it does. So these things, guys will walk around and they'll like kick your leg while you're doing kata. Oh yeah, hit your arms. You'll be standing in a stance for like 5 minutes. Like this is an isometric exercise, which is something out of like the 1940s. There's much better ways to do these training methods. And spending over half of your time that you could be drilling with other people, drilling alone around other people, is largely a waste. So what should you do? My recommendation is build the class so that you spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes, maybe, I would say 5 to 7, teaching a portion of the form. So let's say, in Shotokan, the one of the most basic forms is called Heian Shodan. And you could teach Heian Shodan, and you just teach the first 4 movements of it. They're very basic. And drill that for 5, maybe 7 minutes, and then say, okay, we're moving on to live drilling. And then you could take those movements and just do all live drilling with this. Like here's a partner. Here's how we're going to use this. The beginning sequence has like this down block action, and if you break it down, there's like middle movements and stuff like that. And you could do lots of drilling with that kind of stuff. And then make sure that your bunkai or the interpretation and what you're drilling makes sense in reality. It's not just something you've made up to make fit the movement. Like actually watch the movement, say, okay, well, what do I see in real fights? And I'm not just talking about UFC, of course. Actually look up real fights and see where these movements are used and say, here's what we're going to drill today. Now you've got something that's useful to people. And that's a very valuable thing. Now, that can be done with Kung Fu, Karate, Taekwondo, most of these, what I'm going to call traditional martial arts. The biggest problem that I think a lot of people have with these, in my art, in Jiu-Jitsu, with these arts, is how quickly people get the black belt. I'm going to be honest, that doesn't bother me as much. You go, everybody's got their standard. I don't care what you call it. Usually in those arts, third degree black belt is considered or like third or fourth degree black belt is considered like a high level. And that's about the same amount of time it would take to get a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So that's where, like, I think there's some similarities there that people just don't realize. That's kind of like my thought process on it. It's just too much time is spent not drilling with partners. It's spent drilling alone with people around you. And that's the biggest downfall. And that leads to combat ineffectiveness for a lot of these people. Not all, certainly not all. I mean, look at Lyoto Machida. Look at, Chuck Liddell. There's plenty of guys who have trained karate that are out there doing it every day. And they've proven it in the UFC. I mean, look at Wonderboy Thompson, Taekwondo, Kyokushin Karate with George St. Pierre. I mean, there's a lot of karate fighters out there. So I think to overgeneralize it and say that it doesn't work is just wrong. Certainly punching someone in the head works. Kicking someone in the leg or in the face, it works. It works. Now, from a form of self-defense, and this argument can be made in Jiu-Jitsu as well. Let's be real clear. I think the biggest problem with striking in martial arts or in general, is that it doesn't always work. Like, you might hit someone in the face. Let's say you're 180 pounds, a normal sized adult male. You hit a dude in the face and he doesn't go down. You might hit the same size dude in the face the next day and he just drops like a bag of rocks. Some people have a glass jaw, some do not. And it's kind of like playing Russian roulette. So you got to be real careful when you're using your striking and very smart about it. I have a police friend who stopped. He had, police at one point used ASP batons. They were these expandable batons that you could hit with as defense. And he was in a situation, and he hit this guy in the face, and he said he split the guy's face open from here all the way down to his lip. It was just a giant, just kind of like gash, and started bleeding everywhere. And the guy didn't even bat an eye. He just kept fighting. So he said from now on, he just hits him in the leg, like in the side of the leg on the common peroneal, because that drops everybody. And now he doesn't have to go to the hospital with him and fill out all the paperwork and have the use of force incident. And let's be honest, it's a cleaner situation, right? Like, I mean, what would you rather see police do? Hit someone in the leg and knock them down, or split their face open from, all the way? Like, he realized real quick that it just wasn't the right way to handle it. But it also wasn't that effective. Now imagine that's just your fist hitting somebody. You might hit this guy in the face and just nothing happens. Whereas with jiu-jitsu, if I can get to a point where I can break your ankle, whether you want to keep fighting or not, I'm going to stand up and go away, and you're not going to be able to walk. Or I can choke you unconscious. I don't have to kill you. I only have to hold it for a moment or two. And that's that. The downside is, let's be honest, if you're out there and you're in jiu-jitsu, I'm never going to argue that, like, you get 2 or 3 guys around you and you're trying to roll on the ground with someone. Like, that's going to be super effective against 3 people. It's just not. You've got to create separation, stack people, and it's something that you need to train a little bit. I've started in my school a program called Fight Lab, and we're going to talk about things of that nature. Like, what is it really like when you have 2 guys approaching you? What do? You can't just pull guard. you know. And I say that meanly. I don't mean it to be mean. Like, I'm not making fun of sport jiu-jitsu really, but you can't just, you know, double leg even. Because as I double leg and get on top of the one guy, his buddy's coming and steel toe booting me right in the face. Like, that isn't going to work out. So how do you handle situations like that? You got to create separation between the two and stack them up. So that's something that I think that a lot of traditional martial arts do teach well, is how to kind of engage multiple opponents. It's something that you're supposed to do. Now, if two people come at you and they get a hold of you at the same time, it's going to be a bad day. I don't care who you are. It's going to be hard. You've just got to fight. You know, the way to handle an ambush in the military is to just go at it. You're not meant to survive. You are in a zone. If you get ambushed, which is kind of what we're talking about in a self-defense situation, you're not meant to survive. You're in a bad situation. Every angle is optimal for the bad guy. All right. So the job in the military is turn into the ambush and take it head on, and then, you know, try to establish fire superiority and flank. So that's the same thing. You know, if two people get at me, you know, I'm trying to get anything I can in to just create a little bit of space to get away. That would be the obvious thing to do in a self-defense scenario, or you know, try to gain some sort of advantage any way you can. I digress. So I think that's the biggest issue with traditional martial arts, is just the time spent training something that you should be training at your house alone. You know, that I think a lot of martial arts do that. They want to spend like 25, 30 minutes like with warm-ups and exercise and all this stuff. And it's like, you know, these are things you can do at home while you learn the martial art here in the school. All right, guys, I hope this is helpful to you. I'd like to hear your comments. You know, I'm trying to keep it brief. I honestly could probably write a book on this subject, especially about the subject of training, because I don't think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu necessarily does it right all the time either. But I do think that the adherence to training with a training partner and is where it excels, because you always know what it feels like on another human being, as opposed to just doing it in the air. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Next week, I will have another 5 little tips. I hope everybody has a wonderful New Year's. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe. Don't forget the gi giveaway. Thank you for watching. Talk to you later.